This is Southern Cross News with Joe Palmer.
Good evening, everyone. A former Bridport pilot who ditched his ultralight plane into Bass Strait in 2013 has only just avoided jail time. Shade Hector instead given a suspended sentence and a good behaviour bond. The magistrate saying he's lucky to be alive.
A free man, but only just. Shade Hector given a 6-month suspended sentence and a 3-year $1,500 good behaviour bond after pleading guilty to recklessly operating an aircraft.
Just glad that it's finally over and just like to make notes and thank everybody that was involved in the rescue.
It was in October 2013 when Mr Hector and his passenger Joel Nelson had to be rescued from Bass Strait. The duo were flying from Bridport to Flinders Island en route to New South Wales, where Mr Hector now lives. But on the way they experienced engine problems. They ditched and then clung to inflatable lilos before being saved. Today in sentencing, Magistrate Sharon Cure described the 27-year-old's actions as arrogant, saying he had disregard for experts. The court had previously heard Mr Hector had been advised to trailer the plane rather than fly it, as it had to be jump-started due to battery issues and the airspeed indicator wasn't working. The magistrate added Mr Hector lied about his pilot qualification and wasn't supposed to be flying any more than 25 nautical miles from takeoff point. She said taking the risk was unjustified and increased his moral culpability, and he can consider himself of having only just avoided actual imprisonment. The magistrate said she accepted Mr Hector's remorse, adding the fact that he has 2 young children and that his life has been on hold during the court case were taken into account for sentencing. Mr Hector says he's still mates with the man he was rescued with.
We still currently fly together.
And now that the case is over, he just wants to get back to his family.
Hopefully get to give him a good cuddle and rest tight.
Monika Dadson at Southern Cross News.
An 89-year-old man has died at the Royal Hobart Hospital following a 2-car collision on the Lyle Highway. A 76-year-old man was also transported to hospital after the incident at Lewita this morning.
2 cars 20-odd metres apart, strewn metal in between after sideswiping each other when the white Ford van crossed to the wrong side of the road shortly before 10 this morning. The impact so great, one driver lost his life, despite emergency crews' attempts to save him.
It was a glancing blow, sort of encompassing the headlights of both vehicles, and so they've had to remove his door, obviously, to put him on a spine board and take him into the ambulance that way.
The crash so close to houses, several witnesses rushed to do what they could.
We have a couple of witnesses who were in the homes nearby who have come out shortly after the crash has occurred. They've heard it happen, but they didn't see it happen, and they've assisted the people at the scene.
The 89-year-old died from his injuries at the Royal Hobart Hospital shortly before 3 this afternoon. The driver of the van, the 76-year-old Medina man, remains on a ward receiving treatment for serious leg injuries. Tasmania Police advising today the Lyle Highway bend is not one that has been a problem in the past, but that today's conditions likely contributed to the crash.
You have to drive to the conditions all the time, and they change rapidly, particularly in this area. The Derwent Valley can be very cold and then very warm. The road conditions can change rapidly.
Jessie Gilmore, Southern Cross News.
Tasmania's dairy industry has been dealt another blow. Processor Murray Goulburn announcing it will close its Edith Creek facility near Smithton at the end of the year. The decision will cost around 120 jobs, but the company claims it could mean more profits for farmers.
A year of low milk supply still taking its toll. Tasmania's Edith Creek processing facility, the latest victim, with news it will close its doors by December.
The announcement today by Murray Goulburn is a real kick in the guts for Tasmanians and especially the people of Circular Head.
It's another disappointing sort of news story for dairy.
Murray Goulburn says it was a difficult decision but claims it's in the best interest of shareholders and suppliers.
I think if we have put ourselves best positioned to now lay the foundation for a far more positive growth.
Once Operation Cease at Edith Creek, supplied milk will be diverted to Murray Goulburn's nearby Smithton plant. The company has not confirmed whether it will sell the Edith plant, but says some equipment will be redeployed to other sites to boost productivity. Affected employees are being offered assistance by MG, Rural Health Tasmania and the state government.
But certainly from a TFJ perspective, we hope that MG does all it can to assist those workers find jobs either within MG or within the region.
The company will also close its Rochester and Kiwa facilities next year. The 3 closures are expected to generate an additional $15 million in savings. MG says it will also seize future clawbacks from dairy farmers under its milk supply support package.
But I also note that it is clear that this decision has been made to try and halt, in fact, the exodus of suppliers from Murray Goulburn, not to assist Tasmania's dairy farmers.
MG says its farmgate milk price of $4.95 per kilogram of milk solids will be maintained until the end of July, but it's unclear what will happen after that. Monika Dadson at Southern Cross News.
The Tassal Salmon saga intensified today with several community groups rallying on Parliament lawns. The stakeholders demanding the government intervene in the company's plans to fast-track its Oakhampton Bay development.
7 groups coming together with a united message.
We're calling on Premier Will Hodgman to implement the law in Macquarie Harbour, not allow Tassal to break that law, the cap on salmon numbers, for a whole 8 months this year, and to stop Tassal fast-tracking their Oakhampton Bay development.
Today's actions were in response to Tassal's announcement to proceed with its Oakhampton Bay development 6 months earlier than initially planned. While Tassal again confirmed its intention to put fish in the water this August, it also advised this would only be once all pending EPA regulations were completed. But the anti-onshore fish farming group says it's sceptical of the current system.
They have flaunted the EPA for the last 2 years. They were told to reduce down to 14,000 tonnes by January of this year. They're still running at 20 to 25,000.
The state government today assuring the community the latest process is above board.
That's why we've taken measures to tighten up the regulatory arrangements. We've transferred responsibility for those to the EPA, and Tassal will have to comply with all of the regulatory requirements in respect of that particular operation.
But the group says the government's response simply isn't enough.
We're calling on Minister Rockcliffe and the Premier to implement a moratorium on any more shallow coastal waterway developments of this kind until the findings of the current East Coast legal actions have become known.
Tassal also advised today it will communicate confirmed fish entry dates as soon as possible, and that the $30 million investment in infrastructure at Triabunna will create jobs. But that's something today's group says won't outweigh long-term impacts.
If there's a negative impact on the brand that we've built for the east coast of Tasmania and for Tasmania in general, for tourism, any negative impact has an impact on all of us.
Jessie Gilmore, Southern Cross News.
A welcome move from Hydro Tasmania, who says it's limiting power price increases for many of the state's businesses. The company will lose $10 to $15 million in revenue this year, but the CEO says it's about goodwill, although not everyone is convinced.
Today's announcement said to ease pressure on local businesses. Hydro says Tasmanian energy costs are linked with mainland prices, which continue to rise, and this is unfair to local consumers.
The prices in Victoria for contracts for the financial year 17-18 are currently trading at about $130 a megawatt hour, and as of today, the prices for Tasmanian customers for the energy component will be $30 lower, or about 20% lower.
Steve Davey says the company will lose out $10 to $15 million in revenue in the next financial year, which would otherwise have been dividends to the state government.
Now, this is about returning back to the Tasmanian people revenue that would otherwise have been received by Hydro Tasmania in order to keep power prices low.
But not everyone's impressed.
That hits the bottom line, and ultimately it is ordinary Tasmanians who will pay for that. They will pay for the Liberals' incompetence, and that means less money going into hospitals, schools, public housing and other essential services.
Across the road, question time wasn't so calm. What started as a simple proposal from the opposition leader quickly turned fiery. Ms White questioning the Premier on whether his government would consider a bipartisan approach to fight proposed changes to the GST.
Premier, will you join with me to make a joint submission to the Productivity Commission, arguing for the retention of the current system so Tasmania is not penalised in the GST review?
But the idea was quickly rejected, saying he'll fight tooth and nail against the changes but won't unite.
I would be very reluctant to just accept the Labor Party's position on the GST is because they want to increase it.
The federal government's ordered a major review of the way GST revenue is carved up. Meanwhile, Minister Guy Barnett today launched an asbestos awareness campaign aimed at reducing asbestos-related deaths. The product is commonly found in houses that were renovated before the 1990s, and limited or short-term exposure to the fibres can be dangerous. Louise Hedger, Southern Cross News.
Former Greens leader Bob Brown and Jessica Hoyt's landmark High Court challenge to Tasmania's anti-protest laws has begun today in Canberra. The pair was arrested after protesting and filming an anti-logging protest at Laponia State Forest near Burnie in January last year. Bob Brown telling the media today he believes the laws violate the implied freedom of every Australian to political communication.
We're here to defend the right of all Australians into the future to be able to show environmental destruction where it takes place and allow the public to decide at the ballot box whether or not they want more of that.
The case is expected to run for 2 days. A 25-year-old Bridgewater man has pleaded not guilty to a charge of armed robbery in the Hobart Magistrates Court this afternoon. It's alleged the man threatened a Big Bargain bottle shop staff member with a knife at around 7:45 last night. The staff member then handing over the till contents to the offender before he fled the scene. The man has been remanded to appear in the Supreme Court in July. A Tasmanian driving program's future is under threat. The RACT calling for federal funding to continue beyond June. The Keys to Drive program involves a free lesson teaching both learners and their supervisor.
We're seeing safer drivers, we're seeing lives saved, we're seeing many things happen. We always spruik and we always hear safer drivers in safer cars on safer roads. Why would we take something away from that?
More than 850 Tasmanians have participated since funding was allocated last year. Tasmania's leading lady in the world of timber sports, Amanda Beams, is vying to become the inaugural winner of a new female championship. The series will welcome women into disciplines previously restricted to men, a move tipped to draw more athletes to the sport.
Wood chips and chopped blocks are a regular sight at the Beams family home. And it's time to up the ante. A new women's timber sports series will be held this year, making Australia only the 4th country in the world to host a female title. Women will compete in the underhand chop, single saw and stock saw disciplines. It means 30-year timber sports veteran Amanda has a well-deserved shot at national glory.
We're all mates till that gun goes bang and then she's on. That what they call white line fever, I think, with the footy players.
It's the latest sport to expand into women's competition. Amanda says it's one of the biggest jumps for axe women in more than a decade.
The women only ever really competed in Jack and Jill sawing, but we've sort of branched out now and we're using the axes and now we get to use the chainsaw.
This week's AgFest will be a practice run before she heads to Victoria for qualifying. Meanwhile, her husband and 2 sons will be competing for points.
Hopefully if I can do well again this year and potentially win the rookies outright, I can get that World Championship opportunity.
The young blokes keep you competitive because you're trying to stay ahead of them and they're trying to run you down. So if we can stay ahead of the young fellas, well, that'll be good, but the young blokes are trying to run us down.
Tom Johnson, Southern Cross News.
A free flu vaccine is now available for Tasmanians at high risk of influenza. Pregnant women are among those eligible for this year's jab, which covers 4 strains of the virus. This doctor says immunisation protects both pregnant women and their unborn children.
And it's very safe to have in pregnancy, and it's one of the 2 vaccines we give during pregnancy.
Other groups at risk of getting the flu include the elderly, Indigenous people and those with chronic medical conditions. Now a look at the day's business and finance news with thanks to Tasplan, your local super fund. The market has closed slightly lower as a weaker than expected $3.4 billion half-year cash profit from ANZ weighed on all the big banks. The ASX 200 is down 6.1 points. A short time ago, the Australian dollar closed at 75.28 US cents and 58.45 British pence.
AFL Tasmania's new head of umpire development says abuse towards the game's officiators is in decline. The comments come as the league prepares to celebrate the contribution of umpires in a special round of football this weekend.
They were once known as the men in white. These days, the lab coats are gone, along with old attitudes towards the game's umpires.
It's been a lot more proactive from the clubs about dealing with supporters and coaches that are treating umpires differently, because we can't have the game without the umpires.
And this weekend is about recognising our ardent adjudicators. Players will personally welcome the umpires onto Blunston Arena when the Roos clash with the Crows.
Well, a lot of my friends from school were doing it, and they try to get me into it, and yeah, they told me about the good money and stuff from doing it, so I thought I'd give it a go.
Rising the whistle-blowing ranks are David and Andrew, two brothers balancing boundary work with playing commitments each weekend.
I'm pretty sore usually Saturday nights before footy, but yeah, I go have a hot bath usually. I'm pretty good.
Well, I started off with SFL reserves and now I've been doing SFL seniors.
One day he wants to swap that for the hallowed turf of the MCG. But just don't try to give him stick, because this young fella lets it slide.
I just don't worry about it and forget it.
Tom Johnson, Southern Cross News.
Good attitude. Well, a dream run for the Glenorchy Knights has earned the side a semi-final clash against Launceston City in the Lacasseljak Cup. Glenorchy scored a stunning upset win over defending champions Devonport on the weekend. Despite being a second-tier side, the club's president says his Chargers will keep taking it up to its NPL rivals.
Boys have come back down from cloud nine, no doubt. They've had a tremendous win on the weekend, so it's regrouping.
It is the one thing that sets our sport apart from all the other sports, is the sort of the romance of the cup and a tradition that goes back a long, long time.
The other semi-final pits Olympia Warriors against Hobart Zebras. Both games are scheduled for later this month.
Good evening. Hobart, just 11 degrees today. Launceston 15, Burnie and Devonport recorded 14, while 16 was the high at Eddystone Point. and St Helens temperatures dropped below average due to the cooler southwesterly airstream. Bridport 15, Low Head, Friendly Beaches, Wynyard and the Islands all 14. Strawn reached 13 today, 7 overnight. Campania and Bushy Park 12. Lyowini 0 last night, but not the coldest. Mount Wellington dropped to -2. A cloud band associated with a cold front moved east across the Tasman Sea. Cold air identified by that speckled look of the cloud extends across our region and the southeast of the continent behind the front. Now that scattered cloud all over Tasmania today. Tomorrow the high moves to a position over the Bight with a secondary high right over Victoria. The cold front's off to the east with the wind starting out southwesterly, reaching 20 to 30 knots over the south in the morning. Winds then tending northwesterly over the west and south in the afternoon, more variable over the northeast. Southwesterly swells at 4 to 5 metres, decreasing. Strong wind warning from Wineglass Bay to southeast Cape. A frost warning for parts of the central north, northeast, Midlands and east coast districts. Hobart warming up by 4 to 15 tomorrow, 13 the top for Geeveston, morning frost for Bothwell, a top of 12 degrees. Launceston partly cloudy, 15 the high, 15 for Devonport, 1 overnight for Cressy and 14 in the afternoon. For Burnie, partly cloudy and 16, maybe a shower for Strawn, 15 the top and 15 for Curry on King Island. And for St Helens, sunny and 15, 15 also for Swansea and Orford. On Thursday, fine apart from showers over the west, far south and Bass Strait. Fine as well on Friday, apart from a possible shower over the north and west, and showers extending across the state on Saturday, with fresh and gusty northwesterlies tending southwesterly later. Mostly sunny in Perth tomorrow, a light shower for Melbourne, possible showers as well forecast for Sydney and Brisbane. Partly cloudy and cooling down, 8 degrees in Hobart, 6 in Launceston, Devonport currently 9 degrees. And you did notice, Joe, that the temperature last night in Lyowini was 0. It's going to be twice as cold tonight. So what's that going to make it?
It's a very chilly place. Thanks so much, Murph. And that's all from the news team for now. We'll see you with updates right throughout the evening. Thanks for joining us.